Number one step in the presentation, knowing slash developing who you are. This might be a very overwhelming point because again, knowing and developing your identity it's a lifelong process. You never really stop. You always only continuously improve it. All right. But again, it is very important to approach personal and identity and creative development as something that yes, you will have to develop for the rest of your life, but not because of it's a never ending process. Should you stop executing along that process? And should you worry about breaking things? That's one of the biggest issues that creative people have. They have this tendency to want to make everything perfect, whether it's their products, whether it's their personal sense of identity, personal sense of emotional capabilities and self-esteem, that they just don't execute because they're afraid of going out there. And they believe that until if they don't reach this level of perfection from a creative, from a personal, and from a technical perspective, they won't be successful. But in reality, it's a mixture between continuously developing yourself, your identity, your DNA, your creativity, your creative vision, your products, and consistently executing and breaking things along the way. All right, because again, that's how the entire process looks like. But we will talk about this because it is the most important thing about everything you're going to learn in this presentation. All right, everything comes down to who you are as a person, your creativity, your creative DNA, how you leverage business partnerships, who you are, and the business building dynamic, your motivation, your ability to find a community that can relate with your products and buy your designs. Everything comes down to your level, to your identity and your situation. You need to know who you are. You need to know who you're good at. It's something that should always be in the back of your mind. It is the most important thing to always be consistently developed from day one. All right. Ask yourself hard questions. Really be introspective and ask yourself who you are as a person. What makes you different? What's your story? What's something that hasn't been told before that you can tell? Maybe a specific family situation, maybe a cultural challenge, a political challenge, a socioeconomic problem, something that is inspiring for other people to copy you. Okay, that is the single most important thing about developing yourself and developing your identity. Now, you also need to understand your where you are positioned from a logistical perspective, okay? Because that can be also everybody's journey from when it comes from a fashion branding development process, from a personal development process, is going to be relative to the individual. All right, individuals, that are born in Africa are going to have a lot more challenges than people that were born in New York. People like myself that were born in small cities in Mexico are going to have more logistical problems than people that were born in Los Angeles or London. Okay, so you're going to have to embrace your situation, embrace who you are, so that you can use and manipulate your environment accordingly to your situation and personality and creative identity. Okay, it's extremely important. But as I said, the internet has made this a lot easier. So I wouldn't like. It's important to understand what your logistical situation looks like. So again, you can do exactly what I said. But the internet has made things a lot easier. You can be in Africa, you can be connecting with business partners in London. You can be in Mexico and be building a community in the or a consumer base in the United States. I mean, has become a lot easier because of the internet, but it's still something that you need to consider. At the end of the day, it's mostly about understanding who you are, understanding that you're going to have to consistently develop yourself creatively and personally and emotionally through the entire process. And you have to be willing to commit to a lifelong process when it comes to personal discovery, but at the same time, commit to consistently executing in the short term to not only speed that process up and learn more about yourself and your brand, but also to actually make things happen. Because that is very common. People and creative people just think of and reflect and do this and think, but they never actually execute anything. All right, it's very important for you guys to not land in that trap. Now, number two, why fashion business doesn't make sense. Again, how you should approach learning about fashion business if you're a highly artistic or creative individual, or maybe if you have no idea how to approach learning business from a fashion brand building perspective specifically. You need to understand that fashion business or business for artists and creatives is taught it's not taught in the right way. You need to understand that highly creative people are not business people. We're different genetically. We work differently. We think differently. We like different things. Our learning process is completely different. Our brains work in a different way. Everybody's different, all right? And creative people are not business people by nature. You need to understand that. But schools, both fashion, design, and business schools, do not understand that. They think that in order to learn about business, you have to go and take an MBA. You're going to have to go out and understand all of these business definitions and business strategy. When the reality is that learning about business for highly creative or artistic people works in the exact same way as learning about your art works. How do you become a good painter? By painting. How do you become a movie director? By directing movies. How do you become a good fashion designer? By creating fashion designs. All right. It's an emotional process, and it's about execution consistently. It's about doing things, screwing up, and going back to the drawing board. Business works in the exact same way. A lot of artists think that, oh, I'm not good at business, or I hate business. And yeah, of course you hate business. You hate business, number one, because again, the way that it's taught is so boring. Nobody really is interested in it. And the way you're approaching learning about business is completely different. Again, it's not about watching YouTube videos for 50 hours. It's about just understanding what the first step is. What do I need to do? Do I need to design? Do I need to go there? Following that step and not worrying about the rest. Just worry about consistently learning through the process. Because again, you should approach business learning exactly like you should approach creative development. It's you buy stuff, you do it, you screw up, you throw that thing in the trash, you go back to the drawing board, you do it and repeat that process. Business works in the exact same way. It's very difficult to learn about business, but the benefit about learning about business can happen a lot faster than learning about a technical ability like design. Because understanding and being good at business is a character trait. It's not a technical ability. All right, and developing character traits is more related with developing yourself emotionally, in a more emotional process than it is a technical ability or technical development process. So the benefit of that is it happens a lot faster. Becoming really good at a technical skill can take years, 4, 5, 6 years. Becoming good at business can take months, but it's really difficult. Okay, it's really difficult because again, it's an emotional process. So emotionally, you're gonna have to be put through a lot of stress. It's pretty much a trial by fire sort of thing when it comes to learning about business. But as long as you understand how to approach it, again, focusing on consistent execution, just as you'd be doing if you're learning about painting or if you're learning about fashion design, and sticking to that consistency and sticking to that process, you'll eventually become good at business. Because you'll learn by osmosis. You'll learn because you have no alternative. I went through that process myself. Every single step of the process. Again, I never went to business school. I don't have a university degree, nothing. I just learned things along the way by consistently executing. And from a design perspective, I learned things. And from a business perspective, I learned a lot more things, okay, just by consistently executing. You also need to understand that what are the most reasons, the more common reasons why most fashion businesses, fashion brands actually fail. Because number one is you need to understand the dynamic of business and how it works and how to develop those business skills and that business knowledge just by consistently executing and being willing to go through the entire process. But you also need to understand that most of the things that you need to do are actually things that you actually need to avoid doing. All right, which makes put things in a much simpler perspective. You want to understand how to succeed as a fashion brand. Just don't do the things that guarantee failure as a fashion brand. Okay, and again. Number one reason why most fashion businesses fail, so that you understand these reasons and you don't do them or you avoid them at all costs, is number one, bad products, or by bad products, I mean bad designs or just average or below average or good, but not incredible levels of creative direction, creative DNA, and designs. All right. That is the most common thing. Most common reason why fashion brands fail is simply because they're not good enough. It's that simple. It's very hard to embrace that fact, but that's the reality. Their products are not good enough. Their creative vision is not good enough. Their DNA is not unique. That is the most common reason. Okay. Number two, emotional mindset problems. This goes back to, again, going through the entire emotional process of learning about business. A lot of fashion brands don't succeed because they're just not willing to go through the emotional process. They think that, again, it's going to be this glamorous process that's going to look like a Netflix documentary, when in reality, They're very stressed. It's very stressful. You're gonna have to be willing to put a lot of hours in. You have to be willing to 90%, 98% of the time, as when you're going through that process, having no idea of what you're doing and having zero confidence in yourself, but still just plowing through and stay being consistent. And a lot of people are not willing to go through that and do not succeed doing that. So, second most common reason why most fashion brands fail. Third most common reason why fashion brands fail is because of lack of focus. This is something that highly artistic and creative people have a natural tendency to do. It's just being all over the place, because it is very productive creatively to be consistently absorbing different things, finding different sources of inspiration, doing a lot of things, being interested in architecture, photography, design, fashion design, interior design, animation, whatever. That is productive from a career perspective, but from a business perspective, being multifaceted and not being able to focus is highly, highly counterproductive, especially in the startup phase when you're actually getting your brand started. Very, very counterproductive. And people have really, really bad struggles with it. They want to launch 10 items, 20 things, one full collection, have a lot of customers or a lot of ideas, and not stick to one thing from the get-go, and not being able to focus correctly on products, on designs, on specific communities, on creative vision, on all of those things. They also don't know how to prioritize their business. They don't understand what things are more important, and they also try to wear a lot of hats. They try to be the designer, the salesperson, the marketer person, the customer service person, the buyers, or not the buyers. I mean the logistical people, people in charge of supply chain. I mean, they try to do everything themselves because, again, this natural tendency that highly creative and artistic people have. But that ends up being very, very counterproductive through the fashion brand building process. Okay, again, third most common reasons why most fashion brands fail is because of that lack of focus. And fourth and last reason why most fashion brands fail, and I put it as last because really is the least important, is no money. And no money, all right, quoted. Because when it comes to if a fashion brand fails because it has no money, it really just failed because it ran out of creativity and problem solving skills. Again, starting a fashion brand does cost money, but you don't need a lot of money to create it. Right? I went through the process, and I was working retail on a very, very low salary. I was working retail part-time on a very, very low salary. And I was able to pull through. All right. And every single successful fashion brand out there was able to go through this process without any money. Virgil Abloh talks about it all the time. Samuel Ross from The Cold Wall talks about this all the time. It's not about money. It really is just about figuring stuff out. And the reality is that this one challenge is the thing that will differentiate the true brands and the true entrepreneurs for the people that just want to be entrepreneurs and fashion designers. Because again, it's like the first thing, it's trial by fire. You either go through it and pull through, you find ways to continuously solve the problems that come your way, even though you don't have money, even though you don't have skills, or you don't. All right. So that's why I put money as the fourth thing, because it almost never is about money. It's just a matter of not having enough creativity and not knowing how to problem solve correctly. Moving on to the third point, understanding the life essence of fashion. This is a very, very important point as well. Again, like I was telling you at the very beginning, starting a fashion brand is an incredibly difficult process. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be very confusing. It's going to be very, very overwhelming. Okay, that's just how the process is. All right, and you're going to have to learn what things can guide you through that complicated, confusing, and overwhelming process. Right, because a lot of times, again, 98% of the time, you're going to have no idea what you're doing. You're literally just going to be working. You're like, God, how much do I really know? Do I really believe I can do this? What am I actually doing here? Like, why am I even doing this? Like, those thoughts will come up consistently through the entire process. But you need to have something that's solid that can guide you through the entire thing. It's something that, and I call them your guiding star through the entire fashion brand building process. So you can, no matter how difficult things get, no matter how overwhelmed you get, no matter how confusing the process looks like, you can always count on these two things to guide you through the entire process. All right. No matter what. All right. And those two factors that you should always focus on, all right, never compromise, always focus on, and always troubleshoot based on these two things are: number one, product, having extraordinary product. And by product, having extraordinary product, I mean having extraordinary creative vision, extraordinary creative DNA, and extraordinary design or designs. all right, and finding a really, really good community that has that, and develop a really, really deep level of connection with a specific community. Those two things, extraordinary product, an extraordinary community and product relationship, will make the entire business go forward if you get those things too right. I call the once you get extraordinary product, or at least going back to Tanamachi, not something that is extraordinary in the sense that it has millions of dollars and so many products, but at least something that creatively is palpable, that it's going into becoming, and it has the potential of becoming something extraordinary and something that people can connect with to a deep level. If you have that, and if you find the right community for it, I call that dynamic product and community fit. Everything will just be explosive. The business, the relationship between these two things is so powerful from a business perspective that your entire business, your entire brand can be falling down to pieces and it be in shambles and be pretty much up in fire, but you'll be moving forward. You'll still be making sales. You'll have 200 unanswered emails in your inbox, but you'll still move forward. You'll have fires all over the place that you haven't put out because you don't have time, or energy, or resources. But the business, like the relationship and dynamic between those two things is so powerful that if you get it right, that's what's going to push the business forward. All right. And again, it's extremely difficult to get extraordinary creative vision, again, extraordinary product, and community fit relationship. It's very, very difficult, but once you get it, it's very, very easy to identify that you found it. All right. People, if you're starting a fashion brand and you don't have those two things, it feels, the best analogy and the best way that I can describe it is that it literally feels like you're just walking up a really, really steep hill carrying a really, really heavy rock on your back. It just feels like you're consistently trying to struggle and hustle and push things forward and optimize things, and things are not really going forward in a really good way. That's how it feels like if you haven't found the relationship between those two. But when you do find that product and community fit, it literally, you can't miss it. It's literally as if you had a huge water valve in front of your face, and you suddenly open the valve and you just have nonstop water and you're splashing you in the face and you can't even breathe. That's what having good product and community fit feels like. Because again, the ironic thing is that it's also not a pleasant experience. All right. Because you'll be making sales, you'll be making money, but again, your inbox is going to have 100 unanswered emails at all times. All right. You're going to be running out of clothes or running out of sizes. You're going to have logistical problems. People are going to be pissed at you. All right. But again, as long as you get that right, the business will still move forward, which is funny. It's a completely different dynamic of being, struggling and carrying things and having this heavy rock to just opening a valve and trying to just put everything together as it comes to you. All right. It's palpable once you get it. And again, if you get that right, everything in the business will move forward and will succeed as long as you don't mess up in a massive, massive way. Okay. So that is the guiding light through the entire process. Focus on developing incredible, extraordinary product. Again, it has to be extraordinary, or it has to be on its way of becoming extraordinary. And by extraordinary product, I mean something that is extraordinary creatively from a DNA perspective, from a design perspective, right? It has that level of potential, and something that really, really creates a really deep connection with a very specific community of people. And I mean connection. We're talking about depth by community. I'm not talking about having a lot of customers. I'm talking about having very, very deep relationships with a very specific group of people. All right. Depth is the most important thing, because depth will qualify if you've actually found product and community fit, not quality or not quantity. I mean, it's about quality when it comes to identifying your community. Okay. But again, those two things will guide you through the entire process. Those two things are your guiding light at all times, all right? At all times through the entire process, no matter what. Now, number 4, how your journey truly begins, aka partnerships, the importance of partnerships. Now, again, as I said at the beginning, we've talked about a lot of things that, again, might not be very tangible, very, very pragmatic, but they're concepts that you really, really need to understand and internalize, okay? Because based on your level of understanding those topics, they're going to dictate how productive you are in following the tangible step-by-step process that we're going to cover in the next part of the presentation, okay? But this number 4 step is the first part of things looking actually a little bit more tangible, which is partnerships, which, again, is something extremely, extremely important when you're starting out, especially if you want to start a brand in the fastest amount of time possible, especially if you don't have any business or design skills, especially if you don't have any social connections, all right? And especially if you don't have any money. This is going to be extremely, extremely valuable. And this is something that people don't teach. I don't understand why. Uh, People have this idea that having business partners is just a way to have less control and earning less money. When in reality, I mean, you can have 100, you can own 100% of 10 things. But what's better, having 100% of 10 things or owning 50% of 1,000 things? That's how partnerships work if done productively. And also, it's weird because in the fashion industry, you see the few partnerships that you actually see are partnerships between two highly creative people that are really highly focused on the creative aspect of the business instead of being complementary to each other. Partnerships should be complementary, not that's the value of it, that you can get a business partner to focus on the things that you're not good at, and you can get the other one to focus, and vice versa. Not getting two people that are good at the same things and bad at the same things. It kind of defeats the purpose of it, but whatever. Now, so that said, I do really want to explain the true value of partnerships and why they are so important, and why they change everything when it comes to really building a fashion brand and also your personal life. Because finding a partnership, a good business partner, is literally like finding a husband or a wife. It changes everything in your life. But the reason why they're so valuable is that you need to understand that the amount of progress that you have in any discipline in your life is dictated by the amount of time and energy that you invest into developing yourself into that specific area. All right. If you want to become really good at playing an instrument, the more time and energy you spend into learning that instrument, the more prolific and better you're going to become. The more time and energy you invest into learning a language, the better you're going to be at that language. Business, fashion brand building works in the exact same way. The more time and energy you put into building fashion brands, the better and the faster you'll get at actually developing and building fashion brands. It's that easy. Now, the biggest challenge about all this is that we only have a specific amount of time and energy to invest. Everybody, time and energy is our most limited resource. It doesn't matter if you're Kim Jones, Virgil Abloh, or you only have 24 hours in a day to invest into whatever thing you want to pursue. All right. And having a partnership just automatically doubles the amount of time and energy that you have available to invest into your brand building process, because you're building another person with additional 24 hours a day with additional energy into that process. So it automatically just doubles the speed about how everything works, because you're automatically giving more time and energy into that specific area. All right. So that's simple, right? But that's not the biggest advantage. The biggest advantage is that time. It's not only about how much time and energy you invest, but it's about how productive you are with that time and energy that you are investing. All right. Again, what's the difference between somebody like Virgil Abloh and somebody like you? Virgil Abloh has the same amount of time, the same amount of energy as you do, but he's able to leverage his time and energy in a way more productive way, exponentially way more productive way. So how can you leverage partnerships to use that to not only increase the amount of time that you have available, but also be way more productive with the time that you're actually spending into building fashion brands? The first part is that you're gonna need skills when it comes to developing a business or your fashion brand. You're either gonna need to have a fashion or design skills, or you're gonna need to have business skills. Whether you have them or not at this particular moment in time doesn't matter, but you are gonna need to have one of those two eventually. And again, building skills takes a lot of time and energy. So whatever you are, if you don't have fashion design experience or skills, you can leverage partnerships that do have that expertise in fashion design. And you can focus on just becoming really good at one thing, going back to the importance of focusing, whether it's business or design. Maybe on the other hand, maybe you're a really, really good designer, but you're terrible at the entrepreneur and business aspect of it all. So you can leverage somebody that is willing to focus on that entire process, or that is already good and has that skill set and has that experience, okay? So therefore, it makes the time that you're investing a lot more productive, because you can focus on the things that you're good at, and the other person can focus on the things that they're good at, instead of focusing and wasting time on things that you're not good at and that you have to develop from scratch, right? Now, again, we're going to talk a little bit more about what to do if you don't have any of those. Just bear with me. It's very, very important to first explain exactly how value partnerships actually really work. It also, again, not only helps you decrease the amount of time that it takes building fashion brand exponentially because of it, but it also makes everything way cheaper. Again, if you know about design, starting a fashion brand is going to be way cheaper. You're going to spend less money on fabric. You're going to be more efficient with your raw materials. You're going to make less mistakes from a design perspective. It's going to save you way less money. Okay. If you partner up with somebody that understands sales and marketing and business strategies, you're going to make a lot fewer mistakes from that perspective and therefore save a lot more money. All right. It also makes the process a lot more enjoyable and fun. All right. Starting a business is very difficult. It's a very isolating and lonely process. So having somebody there with you to help you along, make everything fun, help you focus on the things that you actually enjoy doing while he takes care of the things that either you don't like doing or just they're not particularly good at, makes the entire process easier, more fun, more motivating. And again, easier, not easy because it's not an easy, it's still very, very difficult, but easier, a lot easier than it actually is. And that will reflect in the amount of work, productive work that you put into the fashion brand and the business building process, and therefore have a lot more results in a way faster, cheaper, and more efficient way. Again, this is not only about having more time available, it also helps you be a lot more efficient with the time that you do have available. Okay. So that is why value and that's why partnerships are so important if you want to start a fashion brand as quickly as possible. If you don't have design or business skills, or if you have no social skills or a low budget. Now, how do you leverage your partnerships and what do you do if you don't have any skills, both design or fashion skills or social connections? Again, social connections, we spoke about, it really all comes down to quality of product and community. It's not about your social connections or being in vogue. It's more about, focusing on those two things. If you could get those two things right, the marketing, the sales, the vogue covers, the social connections will come with it as a result of getting those two things right, not vice versa. All right. But when it comes to partnerships, you need to understand how to find a partner and the first thing you need to understand in order to find a partner is you need to understand that partnerships work in, like I said beforehand, like marriage, they're like dating. You need to treat them with the respect and patience that they deserve. Okay. They are like finding a wife. It is like finding a husband. If you get this right, you'll find somebody that will be there with you for the rest of your life, whether it's from a business perspective or whether it's from a personal perspective. So treat it the exact same way with the same level of standards of expectation of the other person. You're not just going to marry a random guy just because or a random girl or a guy just because they're attractive, or maybe just because they're rich. I mean, it needs to go way beyond that for it to be successful in the long run. So treat partnerships with the exact same level with the exact same respect and expectations. I can't give you those expectations because I don't know you. And I don't know what you're capable of, what you're good at, what you're looking for, et cetera, what your values are. But you know that better than I do. But treat it as you treat the dating aspect of life. And also once you understand that, you need to understand what you bring to the table in order to know what you're looking for. And this goes back to developing a certain level of identity discovery. You need to know what do you bring to the table? What do you offer? Do you have design skills? All right, you can offer design skills in exchange for somebody that is willing to go through the entrepreneurial process, somebody that has business and entrepreneurial skills or experience or characteristic traits or character traits, right? If you're more business focused, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're consistently pushing things forward, being very comfortable with maybe more risk taking and being very comfortable and pushing things forward and breaking things, so you're going to have to need somebody that's a really, really good designer. And if you have none of those skills, you will have to develop one. Again, because the skills will dictate the partnerships that you'll be able to get. But if you have no skills whatsoever, the best thing and the thing that I'd recommend you to do, and this is the exact same that I did because I was in the same exact position, is to learn about business. All right. And again, why learn about business? Just because it's gonna be a lot harder, but it's a lot faster. Becoming really proficient at design can take years, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Becoming proficient enough at business can take 3 months, 6 months. It's a really, really quick process, but it's a very, very challenging process because of the emotional nature of becoming good at business, as we covered earlier. It is also a way rarer skill. If you develop yourself as an entrepreneur, as a business-oriented person in the fashion sphere, you're going to have a way higher level of demand than a fashion designer. Because fashion designer, there's a lot of talent. Trust me. If you go watch people at St. Martin's or UAL or Parsons, there's a lot of really, really talented people out there. But people that are willing to go through the entrepreneurial process and take responsibility, consistently move forward and executing consistently, there's very, very few people. So therefore, you'll be able to find a better business partner, go through the entire process quicker. And yes, it'll be more difficult, but it'll put you in a way better position for future opportunities. All right. So that's what I would recommend if you don't have any business skills. You need to start focusing on just doing things, just do things, break things, figure stuff out, go out there, look at this guide, start focusing on the steps. Even though if you have no idea what you're doing, I didn't do not have any idea what I was doing most of the time. Just continuously move forward, disregarding everything. All right. Now, how everything comes together. And again, it's very, very important to clarify everything that we've talked about so far, because again, it's normal for you to feel overwhelmed. It is a lot of information, but I do want to put it down into a very consistent, in a very succinct way, so that we can move forward to the step-by-step process that you actually need to follow for the next 6 months, right? Number one thing that we talked about, most important thing, is finding and developing your identity. That is extremely important if you want to become successful. You need to understand who you are as a person, creatively, personally, emotionally. Again, don't worry about becoming this super advanced person on emotional and situational and personal awareness. Just focus on working on this consistently and always executing at the same time based on where you're at. Right? At the very least, you need to, for the first part, at the very least, you need to understand who you are in terms of skill sets, so that you understand what you're looking for in a business partner, and then consistently move forward. But you need to understand what you bring to the table. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are you naturally interested in? What you're not naturally not interested in? You need to have that level of awareness to, again, leverage partnerships correctly at the very, very beginning. As you progress, you also need to use this in order to understand who you are creatively. What's your DNA? What makes you unique? And how can you use that to leverage and create better designs and better products and better experiences, and have a better product and community fit relationship. Everything comes down to this, okay? And also understand your situational reality. What are your logistical challenges? Are you in Africa? Are you in Mexico? How are you going to start adapting to those problems that you have logistically? Like me, I had to move to London. Nowadays, you don't have to move to London. You don't have to move across the world to do it. You can just start looking up things online and figuring stuff out based on your logistical problems, all right, and logistical reality. Number two, understanding why fashion business doesn't make sense. Again, fashion business is taught in the wrong way. Approaching business should be treated exactly as you treat learning about art, becoming a good artist, becoming a good designer, becoming a good movie director. You just need to do things. You just need to start painting, all right? It is that simple. How do you become proficient at fashion business? You just start businesses and figure stuff out. You just focus on the next step and the next step, and screw up and repeat, and just persistent and consistency. And you'll eventually become better and better at business. Your emotional capabilities will increase, your emotional awareness, your skill sets, your levels of rationality, your problem solving skills. Everything will consistently develop if you consistently execute and you approach learning about business as you would approach learning about how to be a great artist. Again, it's about rough drafts, drawing boards, throwing stuff away, and going back and repeating the process. All right. And avoiding the things that I mentioned beforehand. Understand the importance of having an incredible product. Understand that money is never an issue. It's a lack of problem solving skills. Understand that you need to be focused. You need to be focused on things. You can't be all over the place when it comes to business, like how you are creatively. You need to understand that you need to be emotionally ready for the process. It is an emotionally difficult process, very, very difficult emotional process, but you need to stick to it, all right, and stay consistent. Number four, understanding the life essence of fashion. What are the two things that can always guide you through the confusing and difficult process that is starting a fashion brand? And it all comes down to product and community, all right? Focus on two things and focus on finding that product and community fit. If you don't get that fit, things won't work. But if you get it, everything will explode in your face, but it'll work out consistently, all right? So focus on developing an extraordinary product, therefore great creative identity, great creative DNA. Again, the execution doesn't have to be extraordinary, because execution is dictated by, time and money and investment and amount of pieces, but at least have something that is palpably unique. Again, go back to the Tamagotchi example, the brand that I'm in the process of investing in, use it as reference. How can you create that? Again, the guy is just a guy working as a tailor in his house, literally. He has no big budgets. He's just a guy in Mexico that just has that vision, has that creative DNA, and he's just working towards something that can be extraordinary, okay? And it's very palpable. It's very easy to see. And therefore, he already has a very, very loyal customer and community base, all right? But you need to focus on that. Everything in the startup process should be focused on those two things. Everything that you're prioritizing should be prioritizing based on those two things. And everything that you're trying to troubleshoot for should be prioritized and based on those two things, all right? Never lose track of that. And fourth, understanding how your journey truly starts. Again, understanding the truly value of the partnerships, how it can change everything in your life, the speed at which you progress in your fashion brand building process, the amount of money that you have to spend, the amount of fun and enjoyment that you actually have through the process, motivation, the passion, the ability to be more efficient with the time that you're investing, the ability to speed up the amount of time in which you learn new skills. I mean, it changes everything if you get this right. And understanding how to find business partners, treat it like as you would, again, with the respect, patience, and expectations that you treat finding a husband or finding a wife, and understand your role, understand what you bring to the table, or at least understand what you need to develop in order to find it productively, whether it's business or fashion designs, and then just try to leverage what other people can do for you, pretty much. And I don't want to do it like in a selfish way, but yes, like just try to leverage what you bring to the table and try to understand what you are looking for and use what you can bring to the table to find other people that can bring something to the table. All right. Now we get to the actual, the tangible, pragmatic, step-by-step process that you should be following for the next 6 months. Now, you'll probably understand why it was so important for me to be talking for an hour about, again, not very pragmatic topics, but again, there are going to be very, very important for you to truly understand the next step-by-step process, because this is it. All right. This is what I mean by really having something or creating something that I wish I had when I was starting out. If I had something like this when I was starting, my God, everything would have been completely different for me. Everything. Again, this was based on almost a decade of experience building businesses, building brands, looking at talent, hours and hours of conversation with really, really high level people in the industry. This is what I created. This is what I came up with. Again, it's very, very simple. It's only 5 steps, but it's extremely difficult. Okay, it's very, very difficult. Have the right expectations. Number one thing that you're going to have to be focused on, and you also need to understand that this step-by-step process, it's not like you do the first thing, second thing, third, fourth, and fifth, and then you're done. It's you always repeat the process. You go step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, repeat and improve. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, repeat and improve, and successively through the entire startup brand fashion building process. Okay. The first thing that you need to do is find and develop your identity. And again, I don't mean find and develop your identity to this point where you're like this super advanced, have this like super advanced levels of awareness creatively, personally, from a business perspective. But at least give it a couple of weeks of thought, of introspection, of really think about what you want to bring to the table, what you can bring to the table, and use that as leverage to start finding a business partner. That's the only thing that you need. It shouldn't take months. It should take just weeks, at maximum 2 weeks, all right? So think about what you can bring to the table, what skills, and if you bring design skills, understand that you're looking for a business-oriented partner. If you can bring at least the business aspect of the business, or at least take responsibility for that part with your character trait. Even if you don't have any experience or skills, you're willing to go through that emotional process, then start looking for a designer. Okay. Again, there's a very, very high demand for entrepreneurs in the fashion business space, more than designers. So understand what you are, or understand what role you're gonna take in the entire scheme of things, and then start looking for a business partner, which is part 2. Find a partner. Once you find a partner, number 3, you start working on creating something extraordinary, or creating something that's well on its way of becoming extraordinary. All right, specific products or specific designs, creative vision, maybe experiences, pop-up stores. I don't know. Just create something that is extraordinary. And again, if I just talk about this point, this presentation, this guy will take 5 hours. But again, just start focusing on leveraging your partner, your design partner, and helping him create something truly, truly extraordinary, or in this way of becoming extraordinary. Let him focus on doing that. And as a business person, take responsibility for everything else. And as a designer, your responsibility is to create something incredible. Okay, which is, to me, it's the best part of the entire process. Once you have something that's well on its way to become something incredible, something that maybe a very small percentage of the community can deeply, deeply relate with or appreciate, again, even if it's not perfect, even if it's very raw, or in its early stages, once you get that, you can start finding those communities, find those relationships, find those people that are truly, truly passionate about what you're doing from a creative perspective. So maybe it's a political idea based on your designs. Maybe it's your personal story, and that makes a very, very small community of people really, really relate with what you're doing. Maybe it's a social stance, an economic perspective. Again, you need to develop. I cannot tell you what your creative DNA is. You need to find that for yourself. But if you find something that can be well and sway to create something extraordinary, you can start finally looking for that community that can really appreciate and really build that deep connection with your brand. Okay. And again, once you get those two things, once you get that product and community fit, you'll start selling organically. Sales will happen like literally without you having to do anything. If you're not selling organically, then you haven't found those two things yet. But once you do that, you just start selling. It'll happen organically. And you use the money that you earn to start selling. Once you start selling, to repeat the entire process and improve it every single step. All right. You go back to the process. Once you find product market fit, you'll organically start selling. You'll find and develop your identity even more, maybe creatively, maybe from a business perspective, from a personal perspective. You'll continuously develop that. You'll improve the relationship and working dynamic that you have with your business partner, maybe better roles, start hiring people, start leveraging things that can help you have a more productive working relationship. You can start investing more money and more time and energy into creating something even better, maybe more products or better experiences or better communities. You can start focus on maybe deepening the relationship that you have with your community through more experiences or something that's more relatable to them. Or now start focusing on really, really growing the amount of people that are in your community. And then continuously sell and repeat the process. Sell more, repeat the process. Sell more and repeat the process. That's how the entire process is going to look like. Now, it's not easy to see that this is how the entire process looks like, because when you're doing this, everything will be just chaos. A problem here, this thing demands your attention. There's also thing that demands your attention. There's opportunity here, there's opportunity here. But at the end of the day, this is the essence of the entire process, all right? And these are the only things that you should be really focusing about or really, really focusing on.